we are in a state of water shortages and power shortages. And how does developing this kind of project where there's absolutely zero usage of power and water on this property today, how do we provide that sufficient water and power to new projects when we're already in a shortage situation? And how does this get approved without getting approval of ensuring that we have the power and water to provide to this development and other new developments? Everybody talks traffic, traffic, traffic. Yet somehow the traffic keeps getting worse and worse and worse. How is it that we pass all these projects that have traffic studies that say there's no significant impact, and yet traffic continues to get worse? And the state is telling us to do all these things, yes, but yet they're making it extremely difficult for us to try to make the improvements that are necessary to make the general improvements that would allow for what they're asking for. Forgive me if I say this traffic studies, power studies, water studies are a bunch of hooey when it comes to these kind of projects. And when you look at the projects individually, yes, they're small, but when you add them all together, then it creates a much, much bigger impact. Literally, it's raining outside. But figuratively, the cloud is that we have the state watching over us. And this is something that's never happened before, is that if we don't approve housing, the state's going to come down and punish us as a city. I'm not referring necessarily to this particular project. I'm just speaking in general because I want the public to understand that our decision making is now being affected by the folks in Sacramento who are basically telling us what to do on how we do our planning of our communities. And I really feel that that's wrong. We should have the freedom to be able to choose what we think is best for our community, because we know our communities better than anyone. And to have somebody, Sacramento legislators who've never even been in our city, telling us how we should and shouldn't build in our communities and penalize us if we don't meet their standards, I think is 100% wrong. And I want to do a little show and tell in regards to traffic. I'll do a little show and tell for everybody. So this represents the city of Torrance streets. And all the little M&Ms inside this bucket are the cars that are in our city for the people who live here. Everybody who lives here has a car, sometimes two, sometimes even three. And sometimes households have 3 and 4 and 5 cars in a particular household. So we've got a pretty good load of cars already in our city. And so some people say our city is already full. And so when we talk about traffic studies, they look at traffic flow and things like that. But I think what really needs to be done is to look at traffic from a traffic loading perspective. And that's how many cars can we accommodate, because the cars don't just sit in the garage. When these people move into these projects, they have a car, and it is true, it is in their garage, but we all drive places. And that driving causes the traffic that we see every day on our roads. And so when we start doing all this stuff, we start impacting the traffic load in our community. And there's so many things that impact that traffic load, and I want to try to demonstrate that for you visually. So here we have this one project that's being talked about here today, and that's adding a little extra traffic load to our city. But when you start adding all the projects that are coming on board, you can see what it's doing to the traffic load in our city. And we have these kind of projects that are actually coming down our pipeline today. So this is not hypothetical. This is projects that we've actually had people meet with. And so we know that there's going to be this additional traffic load coming to us. In addition to that, the traffic load that we have is during the daytime, our city grows in population because of all the people that come to our city to work. So that's an additional traffic load. It's a big load. It's over 100,000 people. Oh, geez, we're getting kind of full. What? What? You're all hungry? Oh, don't worry, I got plenty. So that's our daytime load, and I realize that that disappears at night, but it does still impact our traffic that we see and we sit in at certain times of the day. Then we talk about the building that's happening around our community that affects Torrance, because Torrance is a pass-through city. So we have building going on in Redondo Beach and on the Hill, and they're being mandated by the state to build and build and build. And we have zero control over that. But yet it adds to the traffic load. Sorry. And I don't want to make too big of a mess, and I will clean it up, I promise. But, I'm sorry, what?
I think you just ate a car.
I didn't eat one. Oh, John's, okay. And then we have the state coming into play, and they're mandating that we build 5,000 units, which could potentially be 10,000 cars. Well, I got a lot more M&Ms here, but I don't think I'm going to make a big mess. But I think you're catching my point, is that all this stuff cumulatively adds up and adds up and adds up, and that's why we're having a traffic problem. And nobody's talking about it. And it drives me insane. I've lost all my hair. We're being forced to do all this, but at the same time, we're not spending hardly any money on improving our traffic infrastructure, our streets and our roads. Yes, we're trying to fix the potholes, we're repaving, but we're not building more roads or expanding our roads to add for additional capacity. And certainly transit is failing miserably, at least in the South Bay. And to expect us to continue to do this, how is this going to improve our quality of life?